So you've heard about the term land banking and you really don't know what it is, or you seem to have a little bit of knowledge about what it is, but who not want to benefit from some extra bit of information. Well, in this video, I'll be talking about the concept of land banking, what it involves, and some benefits you can derive from land banking. Land banking itself is a combination of two words, land and banking. Land, as we know it, is a piece of the earth that is not covered by water. But in real estate, you might want to define it as a piece of property that can be bought, sold, developed for either residential, commercial, agricultural, or industrial purposes. I think that's a simple definition of what land is. On the other hand, banking. So banking involves the storing, lending, and managing money through various financial institutions. Now, let's marry these two definitions together. What then is land banking? Simply put, land banking is the practice of purchasing a piece of land and holding onto it for future use or sale. The goal of land banking basically is to profit from the land's appreciation over time as demand for real estate or as demand for the land increases. Now, by this definition, doesn't mean that one can just go out and buy any piece of land simply because they can afford it. Nope, that's not what we're talking about. Or does it mean that every land we acquire and we hold on to it for some time would definitely give us profits? I would want to say yes to that. However, the amount of profit you get from the land is now going to be the question. The goal is to get maximum profit for your investments. So you should be looking at something that you should, when you acquire and you're selling it over some time, it should be worth, or should be, at least the profit should be something that is significantly reasonable. So there's a video online about someone that talked about a piece of land in Banana Island that was sold for 7 million in 1992, and same piece of land now going for as high as 3.5 billion naira. Before you come out and start saying how many of us can afford 7 million as far back as 1992, that's not what we are talking about. But that's just the aim. I only mentioned that so that you can actually see the possibilities of, or the prospect that land banking actually holds. While you might not be able to afford the 7 million naira land as at 1992, think back and ask yourself, in the neighborhood where you grew up, or in the community where you schooled, or better still, let's take it down to when you started working, the community where you started working, how much a piece of land costs, how much you could buy a piece of land 10 years ago in that community. And as of today, if you want to buy the same piece of land, how much you need to pay to get that piece of land. You might want to say, yes, you couldn't afford a piece of land then. Okay, no problem. How much was a piece of land? When you started working, there would have been a piece of land somewhere that you could have been able to afford, but you did not afford it. You did not buy it. And then today, that same land has increased in value. Now ask yourself, if you had bought that piece of land 10 years ago, imagine how much you would have profited from it. Now ask yourself, as at today, now that you're watching this video, is there any piece of land or is there any property you can actually be able to afford today, and you're not affording and you're not going for it? And ask yourself, 10 years down the line, will you look back and say, oh, had I known, I would have gotten that property? I think that's for you to ponder over. But now let's go back. Anyway, let's go back to our conversation, the land banking. So, but basically, the concept of land banking is to acquire a piece of land, hold on to the piece of land with the intention of either selling it in future or using it yourself when the value would have appreciated. Now, permit me to redefine land banking as the strategic acquisition of land and retaining that piece of land with the intention of selling or using the piece of land in future when the value would have increased. I added the strategic here because while you might be able to buy any piece of land and hold on to it and sell it and make little profit from it, The strategic there is buying a piece of land that has the potential to increase in value, buying a piece of land that has development coming its way, and then holding on to it. Case in point, when Dangote refinery was being constructed in Bejuleki, piece of land could go for, I think, maybe 3.5 million or thereabouts. However, after completion of that refinery, piece of land now, let's not even go into that. We know it's way, way, way more expensive. Now, at the time, people would have looked at the land and said, come on, it's far. A friend of mine would say, far from what? Or, as we would usually say, no, the land is in a bush. But one thing you should remember is someone still said, the same person actually said that every land or every bush has the potential to be a city, and every city was previously a bush. So that place you are referring to now as a bush, ask yourself, would it remain a bush in 5 years' time, or in 10 years' time, or maybe 20 years' time? And when it's no longer a bush, would you be able to afford that same bush of today when it's no longer a bush? Now, this is where the strategy comes in. Being able to identify that this bush of today would become a city tomorrow would help you to be able to maximize your profit from it. That is where the strategy comes in. Now, there are three main aspects of land banking. The three key aspects of land banking. The first aspect of it is the acquisition. This involved at this stage. This is where you get to buy the piece of land. I would have loved to say this is the most important stage, but I don't want to attach any importance to any of the stage. But at this first stage, this is where you get to buy the land. In this stage, you need to actually be very strategic and know your purpose for buying the land, and understanding that, okay, I'm buying this piece of land, for instance, because I know that there's development is coming this way. I know that the master plan of the city, for instance, in Abuja, is heading in this direction. So I need to go and buy a piece of property in line with the master plan, or I need to buy a piece of property along where development is shifting towards, because within a short while, when development gets to that place, the value of the land will automatically increase. We've seen it play out 1,000 times, a couple of times. Okay, for me, in neighborhoods where you say, okay, maybe because the road before in the neighborhood wasn't so good, all of a sudden government wakes up and decides to fix the road. And before you know it, price of everything just shoots up. Development begins to come into the area and all of those bits. Now, being able to have foresight and see that, okay, this place has the potential. Government has started building road, and the road is leading to this community, or the road is leading to this part of town. I need to buy something around that part, because when the road finally gets to that place, most times you might not be able to, some people might not be able to afford it because the price would have significantly increased. So that is where the strategy comes in, being able to identify that development is coming this way. Using the master plan of Abuja, we've been able to identify where development is going to, potential places that you'll be able to yield maximum return on your investment that you can key into. For more details, you can reach out to me on that using the number on the screen, and we will discuss further on that. But as it relates to land banking, in this video, we said the first stage is the stage of acquisition, strategic acquisition, stage where you get to buy the property. The next stage, or stage 2, is the holding stage. At this stage, you get to retain the land for the duration you want, or until when development finally gets to the place, or when the value would have appreciated to the level that you are willing to trade off the land or make use of it for your intended purpose. Now, how long you would hold this land depends on so many factors, like how soon you need your funds back, or how much you are willing, or how much you intend to, or you project this investment to have yielded before you get your money. This is at this stage, you actually, this one is to an extent dependent on you and maybe, should I say, market forces. But the next stage basically is the stage of holding. You get to determine, okay, I want to hold on to this property for 5 years. I want to hold on to this property for 10 years. Or I just want to hold on to it. I don't have any specific period in mind. I just want to hold on to it. And I know a couple of friends that have, after giving birth, bought piece of property for their children with the intention that, okay, when this child has grown up, I'll sell this land and then the child can maybe use it for schooling. For instance, for those of us in the UK or those of us abroad now, you can decide to say, okay, for each of your children you've given birth to, buy a piece of property for them or a piece of land in their name, and then hold on to that land until when they're ready to go into the university. Instead of when it's time for them to go into university, incurring student loan to pay for their university fees and all, you can sell this property and use it to make the payment depending on that. I've heard of several scenarios of people that did such. I saw a video of a lady that said she actually sold one of a piece of a property to sponsor a child's school abroad. So you can actually use this as a strategy to say, okay, you're buying a piece of land now for the child and you retain that land till when the child becomes, or when the child is now ready to go into the university, you use that piece of land to offset their university tuition and all. So that's one strategy you can actually adopt in terms of how long you hold the land. But it's left to you. Just know what you want. It's a personal decision at the end of the day. So, but basically, the second stage is the stage of holding. Now, the third and the final stage in land banking, the stage of sale and development, is at this stage that you decide that, okay, maybe development has finally come to the area, or what I was projecting has now come to pass. The value of the land has now increased to the level that I want it to be. I am now ready to sell, or I am now ready to maybe erect a structure on it. So maybe as at the time you projected, maybe when you started, when you bought the piece of land, you had the intention of maybe building probably a school on it, or building a hotel, or erecting a company on it. It's that's now the time where you decide to say, okay, at this point, all right, time has come for us to develop this land, or time has come for us to sell this land. So that's the stage. That's the third stage, the stage of sale or development. You decide what you want to do with the land at this point in time, after holding it for however long, whether 3 years, 5 years. But just know that in most cases, land banking, the land you intend to use for land banking is not the kind of land you buy today and then you sell tomorrow. No, it's something you have to invest some time in it. Maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, as the case may be. But be ready to invest time and allow the land to, increase in value. If you are looking to invest in real estate in Nigeria or in the beautiful city of Abuja, please feel free to reach out to me and we'll discuss opportunities that are available for you to begin to build wealth through real estate. My name is Bartholomew Nereme and I'm a real estate consultant for Nigerians in diaspora. I'll see you on the next video.